When Dr. Amanda Sullivan received her cancer diagnosis at 32, she was told she had 6 months to live. So she did what any rational person would do. She quit her job as a pediatrician, sold everything she owned, and embarked on a year-long journey around the world to fulfill her bucket list. What Amanda didn't know was that her terminal diagnosis was completely wrong, a medical error that would accidentally lead her to discover who she really was meant to be. When Ellen learned about Amanda's incredible story, she realized she wasn't just talking to someone who had survived cancer, but someone who had survived the fear of death itself. The studio was alive with possibility as Ellen finished her opening dance to "I Lived" by OneRepublic, the song choice seeming almost prophetic given what was about to unfold. The audience was still energized from Ellen's monologue about living life to the fullest, and the warm California sunshine streaming through the windows promised that this would be one of those episodes that reminded everyone to embrace every moment. Dr. Amanda Sullivan sat in the green room, nervously adjusting her colorful bohemian scarf, a stark contrast to the sterile white coats she used to wear. At 37, she had the kind of radiant beauty that came from someone who had truly lived. Sun-kissed skin from months of outdoor adventures, laugh lines that spoke of genuine joy, and eyes that held the depth of someone who had stared death in the face and chosen life instead. Amanda had never imagined she would be sitting backstage at the Ellen DeGeneres show. 4 months earlier, a travel blogger had featured her story in an article titled "The Doctor Who Chose Adventure Over Medicine," which had gone viral and eventually caught the attention of Ellen's producers. "Dr. Amanda Sullivan, you're ready in 5 minutes," a production assistant announced. Amanda took a deep breath, touched the small compass necklace she wore, and followed the assistant toward the stage. Ellen's introduction was warm and intriguing. "My next guest has a story that will make you question everything you think you know about following your dreams. 5 years ago, she was Dr. Amanda Sullivan, a successful pediatrician. Today, she's still Dr. Amanda Sullivan, but she's also a travel writer, adventure photographer, and living proof that sometimes the worst news can lead to the best life. Please welcome Dr. Amanda Sullivan." The audience applauded as Amanda walked onto the stage, her confident stride reflecting someone who had learned to embrace uncertainty. Ellen greeted her with her signature hug and immediately sensed the unique combination of medical precision and free-spirited adventure radiating from this remarkable woman. "Amanda, thank you for being here," Ellen said, as they settled onto the familiar white couch. "I have to start with the obvious question. You're still a doctor, but you're also a travel writer and photographer. How does that work?" Amanda's face lit up with the kind of joy that was infectious. "It's the most unexpected combination, but it works perfectly. I practice medicine part-time at a clinic that serves underserved communities, and I spend the rest of my time traveling and writing about health and wellness around the world. I never planned this life, but I can't imagine any other way to live now." Ellen leaned forward with curiosity. "But this wasn't always your path, right? You were a traditional full-time pediatrician for years." Amanda's expression grew more thoughtful. "Yes, I followed a very conventional route. Medical school, residency, fellowship, and then a position at a prestigious children's hospital. I thought I had my entire life mapped out." Ellen could sense there was a significant turning point in Amanda's story. "What changed? What made you step away from that traditional path?" Amanda paused, clearly having told this story many times, but still feeling the weight of it. 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. The oncologist told me I had maybe 6 months to live, possibly a year if I was lucky." The studio had grown noticeably quieter as the audience absorbed the gravity of what Amanda was sharing. "That must have been devastating," Ellen said gently. "How did you process that news?" "Honestly, the first few weeks were a blur of shock, fear, and trying to figure out how to tell my family and friends. But then something shifted. I realized I could spend whatever time I had left being terrified, or I could spend it really living. Ellen was already feeling emotional. And what did really living look like for you? Amanda's eyes sparkled as she remembered. I made a list, all the things I had always wanted to do but had postponed for someday. I wanted to see the Northern Lights, learn to tango in Argentina, volunteer at an elephant sanctuary in Thailand, write a book, learn photography. I had deferred so many dreams for my medical career. Ellen was fascinated. So you just left medicine? I took a leave of absence, Amanda clarified. I told my colleagues I was going to fight the cancer, which was true, just not in the way they expected. Instead of spending my last months in hospitals, I was going to spend them exploring the world. The audience was completely captivated by Amanda's courage. Amanda, can you tell me about that year? What was it like traveling the world thinking you were dying? Amanda's smile was radiant. Ellen, it was the most alive I had ever felt. Every sunrise felt like a gift. Every conversation with a stranger felt meaningful. Every new experience was precious, because I thought it might be one of my last. I learned to tango in Buenos Aires. I photographed wild animals in Kenya. I helped build schools in Nepal. I started a travel blog to document the journey, partly for myself and partly to leave something behind. Ellen was openly moved. That sounds incredible, but also heartbreaking. How did you manage the emotional weight of thinking every experience might be your last? Strangely, it was liberating, Amanda said. When you think you're dying, you stop caring about things that don't matter. You stop worrying about what people think, stop postponing joy, stop taking anything for granted. I had never felt so free or so grateful. Ellen leaned forward, sensing there was more to this story. Amanda, I'm assuming there's a reason you're here, healthy and glowing, 5 years later. Amanda laughed, a sound that carried both irony and incredible gratitude. After about 10 months of traveling, I started feeling good. Better than I had in years, actually. I went back for a follow-up appointment, expecting bad news but hoping for a miracle. And? The oncologist ran every test imaginable. When he came back with the results, he looked more confused than I was. There was no cancer. There had never been cancer. The audience gasped audibly. Ellen's mouth fell open. What do you mean there had never been cancer? Medical error, Amanda said simply. My original scans had been mixed up with another patient's. The cancer I was supposedly dying from belonged to someone else entirely. I was completely healthy. Ellen was staring at Amanda in amazement. Oh my God, how did you feel when you found out? Shocked, relieved, confused, and then surprisingly conflicted, Amanda admitted. I should have been purely happy, right? But I had built this entire new life around the belief that I was dying. I had discovered parts of myself I never knew existed. Ellen was processing this incredible twist. So what did you do? Did you go back to your old job at the hospital? Amanda shook her head. That's the thing, Ellen. The year I spent thinking I was dying taught me who I really was underneath the doctor's coat. I realized I had been living someone else's idea of success rather than my own idea of fulfillment. So you didn't go back? I couldn't, Amanda said firmly. I had learned too much about myself to pretend I hadn't changed. The travel blog I started had gained a following. I was receiving messages from people saying my stories had inspired them to pursue their own deferred dreams. I realized I could impact people's lives in a completely different way. Ellen was amazed. So you essentially kept living as if you had been given a second chance at life, even though the first chance had been based on a mistake. Exactly, Amanda said with a laugh. I figured if a medical error could accidentally give me the best year of my life, maybe I should listen to what that year was trying to teach me. Ellen had been preparing surprises for this interview, but Amanda's story was so compelling, she almost forgot about them. Amanda, I have to ask, do you ever regret the medical error? I mean, it must have been traumatic to think you were dying. Amanda was quiet for a moment, clearly having considered this question many times. You know, Ellen, I can't regret it. That diagnosis, wrong as it was, gave me permission to live authentically for the first time in my life. Without it, I would probably still be working 80-hour weeks at the hospital, postponing every dream for someday. Ellen shook her head in wonder. That's an incredible perspective. So now you're living this hybrid life, part doctor, part adventurer. And loving every minute of it, Amanda confirmed. I work with a mobile clinic that provides medical care in remote areas around the world. I get to combine my medical training with my love of travel and photography. It's like all the pieces of my life finally fit together. Ellen looked toward her producers, knowing she had some surprises that would make Amanda's story even more meaningful. Amanda, I have something to show you, Ellen announced, gesturing toward the large screen behind them. The screen lit up with a montage of photos from Amanda's travels, her providing medical care to children in rural villages, her photography work documenting healthcare challenges around the world, and testimonials from people whose lives had been touched by her work. Amanda, Ellen said, while preparing for this show, we reached out to some of the people whose lives you've impacted. They wanted to say thank you. The video included messages from patients she had treated, fellow travelers she had inspired, and readers of her blog who had made major life changes after reading her story. Amanda was crying as she watched the testimonials. I had no idea so many people were paying attention. There's more, Ellen continued. Your travel blog now has over 2 million followers, and your photography has been featured in National Geographic. You've accidentally become one of the most influential voices in adventure travel and medical humanitarian work. Amanda was staring at Ellen in disbelief. I just wanted to live fully while I thought I could. Ellen reached into her desk and pulled out an envelope. Amanda, I have some news that's going to make your dual career even more exciting. She handed the envelope to Amanda, who opened it with trembling hands. What is this? Amanda asked, looking at the official letterhead. That's a book deal, Ellen announced. A major publisher wants you to write about your journey, not just the travel parts, but the medical perspective on living fully, the psychology of facing mortality, and the practical advice for people who want to pursue deferred dreams. Amanda was speechless, staring at the contract offer. But wait, there's more, Ellen said with a grin. National Geographic wants to sponsor a documentary series following your work with mobile medical clinics around the world. The audience erupted in applause as Amanda covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed by the opportunities. Ellen, this is incredible, but I have to ask, why me? Why is my story resonating with so many people? Ellen's expression grew thoughtful. Amanda, I think it's because you've proven something that most people only dream about. That it's never too late to rewrite your life story, that the safe path isn't always the right path, and that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can become the best thing if you let it. Amanda wiped her eyes and looked directly at Ellen. The ironic thing is, I'm healthier now than I was when I was just practicing traditional medicine. The travel, the adventure, the sense of purpose, it's like I found the cure for a disease I didn't even know I had. Ellen smiled. What disease was that? Living someone else's life instead of my own, Amanda said simply. But Ellen had one final surprise. Amanda, there's someone here who wants to meet you. Dr. James Peterson, the oncologist who had delivered Amanda's original misdiagnosis, walked onto the stage. Amanda's eyes widened as she recognized him. Dr. Peterson? Amanda said, standing up quickly. What are you doing here? Dr. Peterson approached Amanda with a mixture of professional concern and personal curiosity. Amanda, I owe you an apology. The error in your diagnosis was inexcusable, and I've carried the guilt of that mistake for 5 years. Amanda looked at him with compassion rather than anger. Dr. Peterson, you don't need to apologize. Your mistake gave me the greatest gift of my life. But you could have sued, could have reported me, could have ruined my career, Dr. Peterson said. Instead, you disappeared, and I never knew what happened to you. Amanda smiled. I was too busy living to be angry. Besides, holding grudges against the mistake that saved my life seemed counterproductive. Dr. Peterson was amazed by Amanda's grace. "Amanda, what you've done with that year with your life? It's inspired me to reassess how I practice medicine, how I talk to patients about living fully, even when facing serious diagnoses." Ellen watched this unexpected reconciliation with fascination. "Dr. Peterson, how has Amanda's story affected your work?" "I've started encouraging my patients to think about their lives holistically, not just their medical conditions," Dr. Peterson explained. "Amanda showed me that sometimes the prescription for a meaningful life can't be written on a prescription pad." 6 months later, Ellen attended the launch party for Amanda's book, The Beautiful Mistake: How a Wrong Diagnosis Saved My Life. The event was held at the same children's hospital where Amanda now worked part-time, and the room was filled with medical colleagues, travel photographers, and patients whose lives Amanda had touched in both her careers. "Any regrets about the path that medical error sent you on?" Ellen asked as they looked at photos from Amanda's latest expedition. Amanda smiled, looking at a photo of herself teaching photography to children in a village clinic. "None. I learned that the life you plan and the life you live are often two different things, and sometimes the life you live accidentally is better than anything you could have planned. Because sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most beautiful discoveries, sometimes you have to think you're dying to learn how to live, and sometimes the wrong diagnosis is exactly the right prescription for finding out who you're really meant to be."